I love drawing landscape art. I love nature, especially bodies of water, which I find to be so therapeutic. I started watching The Rings of Fire and I was inspired by the beautiful landscapes. I was inspired by one image of Galadriel on a ship facing the sunset on the water. I found this image on Google and I just knew that I wanted to use it as a reference piece. I'm starting with a rough sketch of what I see. I usually do this by blocking out shapes, but not adding too much detail in. I save that for when I'm using colors. I love to use markers as the base for colored pencils because it creates a nice layered effect that gives the colors more depth and pigmentation. In this case, I started off with a light gray marker, and then I'm going to go over it with the different colors with my pencil crayons. So then I'm going to use my blending technique, which is to add color number 1 and then put in color number 2 and then come back with color number 1 in order to blend, and then I just keep doing that. I'll repeat that process for each part of the drawing that I'm coloring in. I can add multiple layers at the same time, or I can come back and go over it. I prefer this method because I can come back with a fresh take later on and see what needs more work. I use the same method for blending whether I'm using 2 shades of the same color, multiple shades, or even when blending one color into an entirely different one. I find that with waxy pencil crayons, the lightest shade within the color that I'm using lends the most blendability, which is great to go over after you've added in all the colors and mixed them in so that it looks really clean. Obviously, this is also going to depend on the texture of the paper you're using. For the colors for hair and skin, I feel like it's easiest to analyze the different colors that I see within a reference photo. You can also do this using a color wheel or even just lining up your colored pencils and playing around with them to see which colors you can see in different skin tones. Even if you aren't using a reference photo, it's a good idea to Google blonde hair, for example, if you're going to color in blonde hair. Favorite part and what I think is the most difficult. For the water, I'm just going to be adding these lines and a base layer, a quick base layer, and then I want to add the lighting from the sunset and start to layer more pencil crayon in. I'm using lighter pencil crayons like the blue and the white in order to really create like a fully blended base that I can then add details onto. Sometimes have the habit of jumping from one thing to another. I'm just filling in the land over here, like the land in the distance, and I'm keeping it pinkish and purplish because of the sun that's like reflecting on it. And this side is going to be a little bit darker on the left, with still having, a little bit of pink, but on the right it's going to be pretty much purple and pink tones. the sky, I decided to use pencil crayons as the base instead of markers, just to avoid using too dark a color. I'm layering the different colors over each other for the clouds, and then I'm always going to go back to the lightest shade to do the blending. Because I want the clouds to look fluffy and soft, I'm going to be using my pencil crayon in a circular motion. I'm gonna use like a warm gray tone to add some shadowy areas on the clouds. And I always like to mix a different color in, so I'm not just gonna stick to the gray. I'm gonna go along with the purple as well, and that's what I also see in the reference photo. I'm just doing a lot of blending and then going back and adding more color and blending again until I'm happy with it. I'm adding the highlights with a gel pen. I often also use white paint for this. I just think that gel pen is easier, and obviously you have more control over it, and there is less room, in my opinion, in my experience, there's less room for error. It will also depend on the type of paper you're using. Sometimes some paper really can't handle the thickness or the dampness of the paint. So since I'm using a reference photo, I can really see where the highlights are going to be based on the photo itself. I can also choose to add some more highlights in if I want to. That's what I'm just doing here. I'm just, basically wherever the sun and the light is hitting Galadriel, her hair, the boat, parts of the boat, her armor, that's where I'm going to be adding the gel pen. Now I'm just going in with the black pencil crayon to really accentuate the shadows in both the foreground and also in the background. Okay, we're at the end of another video. If you stayed for this long, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click like, and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next.